This is Chris Hansen.
Chad doing Rip City Radio here.
It's your favorite basketball player, Tyler Hansbrough.
This is Jamie Hudson.
This is TJ Houshmandzadeh.
And I'm going to let y'all know something.
Duke sucks and Duke will always suck.
You're listening to
It Just Makes Sense.
It just makes sense.
We are sports. We are nostalgia. We are pop culture. And we're funny sometimes.
I think overall we're just a good time.
They thought we couldn't do it. But guess what?
We're back.
Podcasts are free, and we can do whatever the hell we want.
Yeah.
We never knew what we were doing in the first place.
Yeah, that is a good point. I did a full bracket through AI, and they had Kentucky winning. So.
I think what it is risk-free investment. That's the way to look at it.
That's got to be illegal to say.
You are spoiled when you're a Blue Blood fan. Nothing's ever good enough. Like, Elite Eight is a fucking disappointment.
It's either championship or failure.
Other teams are winning the championship when they get to the Elite Eight. And you're sad because you're in the Elite Eight. It's like, how fucking spoiled are you?
Yeah.
And who are
Speaking
we
of
to
losing.
call people out on losing bets, okay? We suck at betting.
And remember, don't be afraid to fade yourself.
You don't think so?
I mean, I think they could.
I think they might be able to as well. Oh, I don't want to get up and fix that.
What?
That.
Then don't.
Okay.
Borat was so offensive, there's no way it would fly today. You get canceled.
It's true.
I feel like we've gone full circle on canceling.
That we do it too quickly?
No, it's like...
Ooh.
It's like we went through like heavy cancel culture.
Yeah.
Everybody was getting canceled for everything.
Sure, yeah, we've been canceled multiple times.
And then it was like anti-cancel culture.
Yeah.
And then people were like, you can't cancel people for all these reasons, blah, blah, blah. And now it's just kind of like back to normal, I feel like.
Back to reality.
No one complains about canceling anymore. They just go straight to murder.
Yeah. I think you're just too woke. The woke mob.
I haven't heard people say woke either.
Well, you're not watching Fox News then.
That's true. I stay away from all that shit.
You don't like the politics. You don't like the politics.
You don't like the politics.
He doesn't like the politics.
Why would you want to watch the news? All it is it's pitting one half against the other half, and it's all depressing shit. If it's not politics, it's like fucking end of the world shit, or someone getting murdered, or how your city's on fire.
Yeah, murders, fires, chaos.
Yeah,
There's
so many things to watch. Why the fuck would I want to watch that?
A city in crisis.
The news blows.
It's terrible.
If you watch the news, if you watch the news all day, every day, you would be concerned about where you're living right now. Because you would think just the entire city of Portland is just on fire.
Cancel the news. Defund the media. No one trusts the media.
Braxton, how do you feel about Oregon losing to Creighton?
Well, I feel heartbroken, first of all.
Don't say you care more about Oregon football than you do Oregon basketball, so we'll start there.
I wasn't. I mean, that's a fact, but I wasn't going to say that. It was heartbreaking. I think that even the layman would know that when it comes to college basketball and March Madness, you got to make your free throws. If you're going to win in crunch time, you got to make your free throws.
Saw that with Baylor tonight.
Yep. And Oregon could have easily won that game in regulation time. They had plenty of opportunities to do it, and they kept on letting it slip away. And then in the third overtime, I think third?
They just got to 2.
Second overtime.
Yeah.
They just were gassed, and they completely gave up. The energy you could see had totally just completely teetered in Creighton's direction.
It's a reflection of the coach.
I don't know about that, but
He folded under his old team. Pressure
think?
got to him.
you think?
Yeah.
I think
The
that
fix was in.
I think it might have been that they literally had all their points in the second half and beyond were by 2 people.
Yeah.
The senior. That's fucking Cuisinart.
Cousinard and
He
Dante.
has been going
Dante.
off.
Yeah, but at some point you got to be able to rely on one of the other 5 guys on the court. And when those guys, when you have a team who knows that they can focus on just 2 players and play strong defense, they just started double teaming both of them.
And then they're done.
And then they were done. These guys were absolutely gassed. They had played over 30 minutes, 40 minutes of the game. So
I think part of the problem, too, right there at the end of the game, when it looked like, when you're going back and forth, no lead was safe. It was just like a couple of possessions. And then you
Tit for tat.
Yeah, and then, when you miss those free throws and it forces it into overtime, you were just kind of, at that point, surviving. And then in the second overtime is when it seemed like Creighton obviously pulls away there. But
yeah, but this was an Oregon team that I was going to be surprised if they even made the tournament, and they won the Pac-12, and I think that they had a good showing. So, it's one of those things where it's not like I'm heartbroken.
yeah, well, let's back up here for a second, because we this past weekend we're entering, or we now are at the end of the first weekend. But we were at A&A this past, what was that, Friday. Friday was very interesting, because I don't know what I thought we were walking into. It wasn't that. And I know that it sounds really dumb to think, but it's kind of like why I thought that going to Disneyland on New Year's Eve was a good idea one time. I was like, oh, no one else would be doing that. Turns out I was at capacity that day. I was like, oh, yeah, we'll go to A&A. It'll be pretty sleepy. We'll just, go and find a chair, whatever. That place was... It took us 3 hours to get a table at the sports book. And it was a legit sports book. And I don't know what I thought it was supposed to be, but...
Have you never been?
I had never been to A&A before.
Yeah, it was like a Vegas-style casino. It was very nice.
It was
They were
pretty sweet.
treating the tables like Vegas. It was table minimum and shit. On the corner there of the sportsbook bar, it was a $3.50 minimum.
Yeah. Let's see, Braxton and I played a little bit of roulette. I put down money on black, and I won, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I have to stop. And they had craps and everything, too. But craps is one of those things where you have to, spend a couple $100s to kind of get the juices flowing, to kind of, feel like you're limbered up. And then at that point, what are you doing? But,
And then you broke.
you're broke, yeah. That's how that went. But it was pretty fun.
It was.
I was a big old fan of that. We did not get arrested, contrary to the guy who was very actively getting arrested when we were leaving.
Why don't you get on the intercom and page my wife?
And these guys very much seemed like they knew exactly who this guy was. There was just kind of a routine arrest.
Yeah, there was a rapport.
It was like a routine imprisonment.
We'll
for
use the
this guy.
softer cuffs.
I know. It's just kind of usher yourself to the car, will you?
Where'd you park this time?
Yeah. I know. He's got a designated parking
6C?
spot.
6C?
Yeah, he's got a designated parking spot. As Reese Davis calls March Madness gambling, he calls it risk-free investment is how he labeled it. In talking with, because ESPN is obviously leaned into the whole sports gambling and everything. They've got their ESPN bet and whatnot. And so they are doing this segment. They're talking about UConn and about, I don't know why all these things are going to happen, but they're just going to happen, blah, 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 blah. Here is this gal talking, and then Reese Davis at the end.
And so if you look at a team total, although it seems low at 60.5, I'm going to go under there.
You know what? Some would call this wagering, gambling. I think the way you sold this. No, I think what it is risk-free investment. That's the way to look at it.
Aaron, positive way.
Aaron Dolan from ESPN bet with the best.
That's got to be illegal to say.
Risk-free investment.
I don't think that you are allowed to say that, Reese, but he tried it on. It's like when you try the shirt on for size, you go, well, does this fit?
No.
He got absolutely roasted for it, so I think he's already.
He's not wrong. Risk-free investment.
That's what we say on this podcast, not the worldwide leader in sports.
Yeah, that's a risky thing to say.
Yeah.
That quote is not a risk-free investment, that's for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, so ALNA was sweet. Shout out to all the listeners who showed up and who were hanging out, taking pictures with us.
Yep.
That was great.
I only had to sign a dozen autographs.
Yeah. And how many body parts?
No comment.
It's also nice to not place bets on your phone or the kiosk, and you go up to a person helping you.
You went up a couple of times to a physical human.
I prefer betting with a person because they're so detailed. They're like, okay, would that be a Kansas 9.5? All right. Does the screen look right? And then they hand you the receipt. They take your money, give you your change, and they're like, good luck. We would love to see you back to cash out.
Is that really? Yeah. Wow. How
we hope to see you back. I'm like, probably not going to happen, dude.
That's kind of shocking to me because those guys up there looked so tired and so unshowered.
No, the last time I came back right before we left, I kept apologizing to him because I'm like trying to build a parlay. So I'm sitting there looking at my phone. I'm like, I'm sorry, 1 sec. He goes, there's nobody here. Take your time. I want you to make the best ticket possible. I'm like, dude, I'm about to kiss you on the mouth right now. You're really motivating me.
You just break down in tears.
There were a lot of nice. I mean, we had good old Arthur there at the roulette table who was screwing both. Was it just Jordan over? Yeah, that was just Jordan. It wasn't Braxton or Jordan. The
Arthur screwed me over later.
Did he?
Yeah. I went back and he racked me down real quick.
And he's a guy who was giving advice, and his advice was always wrong.
Yeah.
But like he was like,
I was asking for it, though.
Yeah, but he was like nice enough.
I was gonna say, is it voluntary advice? Like they're technically not supposed to do that, are they?
No, I think they can do that. I mean, as long as they are not telling you like you should do this or you need to do this, they can offer advice.
Yeah. So like when I won that $1,400 in Vegas, they were just bored and they were like, "You win, we win." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "You win, we win." It took me like 5 times to figure out what he meant because he couldn't like ask for me or for a tip or whatever like that. But like finally I understood what he was saying. And then at the end of it, they were able to cash out like $85 in tips from like just like letting it ride or whatever. And we walked away with like $1,500. It was great.
That sounds nice.
Went to Aria and immediately lost 300 of it because we're like, we're so good at this. And we realized we had nothing to do with our winnings.
That sounds like karma. You won 1,400. You fucking tipped 85.
Well, no, I think
people that helped you.
No. I think that we tipped more, but initially, like when they like let it start riding or whatever. But yeah, probably
word gets around. I'm like, these cheapskates gave us $85. Make sure they lose next time around.
Yeah, you go to the Aria there. But I think I asked. Maybe did I ask both of you guys this question? Where it was like, I felt like I have to go to Vegas now. This has made me feel like I needed to go to Vegas.
As I've said on this podcast and to you guys before, I've never been to Vegas as an adult. And I would love to go.
Well,
especially before I have kids. There was a couple of days this last week where I thought maybe not. be having a kid.
Oh, really?
So after that, I was like, you know what? I should do some things.
Yeah, we should go do a few things.
Don't
before.
count on getting the stadium swim in Vegas because we checked how much that is.
Don't answer that. Don't pay that off yet.
What?
So like the big sports book in Vegas, the stadium swim at the Circa
the
that
pool,
has
the lounges,
50,
okay,
the 150-foot LED screen and whatnot.
They have like the 15-person couch, which is exactly where I want it to be because you're surrounded by swimming pools. So you have drinks brought to you, you're drinking, smoking, you get in the water, and there's fucking 50 screens, and you're just there all day.
How much do you think it costs to have a cabana in like a premium spot all day from like 10 to...
It's like 8 to 4.
8 to 4, 10 to 6, whatever it was. 8-hour rental. What do you think the minimum spend is for a cabana daybed?
I don't know. If that table that we were at was, $200, $300, then that's got to be like $1,500.
Try $8,000.
Yeah, $1,500 is like the deposit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was $1,600, I think, just to hold.
Yikes!
Is it $8,000 for the cabana, and then you pay, and then you buy drinks, or is it an $8,000 minimum?
You have to get to $8,000. Yeah. So like, if you don't spend that much, they'll just charge your card $8,000. But yeah, I mean,
So you
just
have to purchase $8,000 in food and drinks.
Correct. Yeah.
At least you should get something for it.
I suppose. But then at that point, like. Then
you're also there. But if you're getting one of those spots, you're gambling
hard.
And
yeah,
that's
you're
outside
not,
of that.
You
so
don't have
you
these
better be able to
$10
afford
tickets.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. There's no $10 parlay
How many
boys.
people can fit in an $8,000 spot?
I think it was 12 or 15. Yeah, something like that.
It's doable.
But you know what it is that here's the real gamble: is not have $8,000 or put that on a credit card. Place a few of those real long shot parlays and really hope that it pays off, assuming that it will. And then hey, it's foolproof. It's going to pay itself off.
So
Good vibes.
Risk-free investment.
Risk-free investment.
So
exactly.
the long shot parlays that I've been placing for 20 years that haven't paid off,
It will hit that
we're
day.
Counting on it.
It will hit that day. That's exactly what it will be.
All right, 20 years. I'm due for the next 4 hours. I'm hitting one.
Yeah. It was also kind of funny, you talk about the need to maybe do something or, progress it within your life before other things start to either speed up or I guess to a certain degree slow down is last night. So Miguel's fiance Ashley is celebrating her 32nd birthday. Whatever. We're not going to reveal the birthday number. It's rude. She's celebrating her birthday. And we were at Ron Tom's last night. Ron Tom's is a old staple place where we would go when we were single, or I was engaged at the time, but these guys were single, Mitch and Miguel, and we'd have this system or whatever where I would lure the girls in, but then, anyways, there's a whole thing. It was the three of us. It worked sometimes. Worked more times than it probably should have. But
Be more detailed on how you lure them.
Lure women in. Yeah, let me clarify that, actually. So we would talk with girls, and I was the one who had, like, the Nicholas Sparks love story. So got them all buttered up. I have the fiance now. I talked about it on the radio, and now I'm one terminal illness away from a Nicholas Sparks book. Well, anyways, then it was like, hey, look at our attractive friend Mitchell. And then if you don't like him, here's the personality hire in Miguel. So
we got the model and the funny one.
Exactly.
Pick your poison.
And it worked more times than not. But so we're there sitting at Ron Tom's, reminiscing about the good old days. And so we're like, you know what? Let's FaceTime Mitch. It's 10:30 at night. And I didn't think he was going to answer, but he answers on the FaceTime call. And his brand new newborn baby girl, Stella, was just like laying right there on his chest while he was watching TV or something like that. And it was like, if life hasn't changed in the last 10 years or whatever since that last time, it was a pretty smacked you right in the face at that moment. That's for sure.
It's two different worlds of not using protection. Just living life on the edge on one half, and in the other half, you're trying to start a family.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's go to Vegas. Let's spend $8,000, or let's think that we're going to win $8,000 to be able to pay it off. And if not, just chase the whole weekend. Why not? Who needs $8,000 to spend $8,000?
Your group of friends are just slowly disappearing from the cabana. There's 2 of us left. I feel like people are dying and dashing.
Yeah.
All right, you're stuck with a bill. It's $8,000.
Oh, God.
I think it'd be kind of fun to okay, how can we get exactly $8,000? Not a dollar more.
Win $8,000?
No, at the cabana, we order stuff
to
get to exactly 8,000.
I'm curious how much
how
much of it is
stickers?
the actual cabana. Because then if they're counting on you reaching that amount from food and drinks, then how much is each fucking item? So are you saying that if the cabana, if you get that and then you have $8,000 to spend, how the fuck do you get to $8,000?
I mean, bottle service.
Bottle service
Yeah,
is-
that's gonna get you there.
Yeah,
so each bottle, that's $400.
A few $100, yeah.
Because we got a bottle of Bullet bourbon. Remember, we were at LAX nightclub or
It was
whatever.
$250.
Yeah,
And that was in what, 2015?
And that was in one of the cheaper hotels, the cheaper clubs.
2015. Yeah, it was in one of the cheaper clubs. And even still, I was like, we downed that bottle, and I was like, I don't even think that there was that this was a real bottle of liquor. I didn't feel like anything at that point.
Yeah, so today that bottle is $500.
Definitely.
You get premium shit, probably. You can easily pay $1,000 a bottle, I would assume. For nice
if you're
stuff.
getting, the tequila with the bell on it. I forget what that's called, but
The 1800 or
the porcelain
I know what
one,
you're
yeah.
talking about.
You're probably paying $2,500 for a bottle of Macallan, 25. There you go. There's one
my
right
gosh.
there.
And-
what a terrible drink or liquor choice for that type of environment. Can you imagine drinking Macallan
in 117 degree
Jesus
weather.
Christ.
Yeah.
But see, in that environment, I would prefer beer. How much beer?
Yeah.
Well,
You would-
beers are probably, it's probably
$15 a glass or something.
well, and they
You
probably
get
give
buckets.
the buckets, so
Yeah.
you'd pay, $100 for 6 beers,
We'll look it up here. I doubt that they're going to.
and then you get a pizza that's fucking $60. It could add up quick.
And the thing is that you know how this is going to go is that you're going to get a bunch of jersey chasers or daybed chasers who then try and latch on. And we even said, I remember this at your wedding, is that the girls had come into our room and started putting stuff on our tab or anything like that. They weren't even people girls that were in the wedding. But they had come and they hung out. They're like, oh, yeah, let's get a bottle of champagne and do all this, whatever. It's like, listen, the food's the drinks aren't. And all of a sudden, there was all this extra money that was on our tab.
Who did that?
I don't remember.
I don't recall this.
I remember the bridesmaids coming in.
It was right when you had just gone out to do individual photos with Jera. So you were.
You should have punted them out there.
Yeah. I was like, that's not
I
on my
remember the
tab.
bridesmaids coming in to toast with a champagne, but I don't remember anyone else coming in.
Yeah. I cannot on the fly find the menu for
Yeah,
this.
they don't want you to
They
know.
don't want you to know.
They don't
You know what's a better deal though is if you go to a Miami Marlins game. I swear we'll get to March Madness here in a second. But I figured that this would be a perfect situation for us. The Miami Marlins are selling an all-you-can-eat seats for $52. Through the 7th inning, you can get all-you-can-eat or drink water, cookies, peanuts, popcorn, hot dogs, chili nachos, cheeseburgers, nachos with cheese, and non-alcoholic beverages. $52.
That's
I
a
would
pretty
say
solid deal.
That is a solid
pretty
deal.
worth it.
Just for hot dogs, I'd put them out of business without anything else.
So I don't know if it's just like in every seat. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a good seat either, you know?
I mean, who goes to the Marlins?
I
Marlins
think
games,
that's kind
probably
of
the big selling point
the
here.
big selling point for them is that you could have that.
I could have 7 hot dogs and 7 Pepsis, and
Yeah, this like your
Have that be
7,
worth
7,
it.
and 7 challenge or whatnot. But yeah, I don't think anyone is going to those games.
that is the best part about baseball games. It's not the actual game; it's the concessions.
Exactly.
Get a foot-long hot dogs followed by some Dippin' Dots.
I am looking forward to here. We've got opening day for the MLB coming up, and we do have a little bit of MLB talk later on in the show with Shohei Ohtani and the betting scandal that he's going through. But I usually, right around this time of the year, it's always like, hey, here's the absurd food item that XYZ Stadium has come out with. Usually Arizona does that. There's a good number of teams that have just like crazy food items, but maybe for next week or anything like that. But we can talk about March Madness. And the first weekend, as we talked about, is over. And I think that like I wanted to go through the surprises. And for me, probably the biggest, I don't know if it's a surprise or just like has the ship run its course type of thing. It's whatever is going on in Kentucky with John Calipari and his one-and-dones losing to Oakland in his first-round matchup. And, you know, a guy who is on a lifetime contract, who hasn't won in over a decade. And, you know, we've talked about, you know, with Nick Saban and the NIL and what drove him out and everything. Almost seems like we continually talk about every single year whether or not this strategy of John Calipari and his one-and-dones with the NIL now very much in existence is really the right strategy.
He's not. He's being out-recruited for one-and-dones. These aren't the last 3-4 years of Kentucky teams are not one-and-done led teams. He had 1 freshman, 2 freshmen, 1 above average one, and 1 okay.
Because, like, Coach Calipari has talked about, in part of his recruiting pitch is, like, the guys in the NBA that I have recruited and I have gotten into the NBA have made over $1 billion, and that's why you should come here. And I think there was even a picture. There were 7 of the 24 NBA All-Stars in this year's NBA All-Star game who were coached by Coach Cal at Kentucky. And so, like, the guy can get a guy to the NBA, but man, if they're not able to be in that tournament for 2 seconds before they find their way out.
Honestly, every Kentucky news you see is from the NBA, not from college. Because you see the Anthony Davis and the De'Aaron Fox and all that. Name a player out of Kentucky college basketball team that you can name that is a rookie in the league or sophomore in the last 5 years. You can't name one.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
he's
struggling.
been out-recruited
Yeah.
by every school. You can name a recent one from Kansas. You can name a recent one from Duke, but you haven't been able to name one from Kentucky for a while.
Yeah, I definitely think that he can hold on to the, Devin Bookers of the world.
Jamal Murray and all that.
Yeah, but I agree with Miguel. Like, that's what, 4, 5, 6
Longer.
years ago,
Yeah.
at minimum. So, sports in general, it's a what are you doing for me today business. And I think that Calipari has a lot of achievements to stand on for sure. But, those are getting lowered and lowered as time goes by. And I do agree. I don't think that they should just get rid of him right away. I think that he's done enough to deserve, another year or two to figure it out. But at the same time, he seems very, against change. And he seems kind of stuck in his ways and just wanting to do what he wants to do.
Right.
And if, it's either or it's kind of a my way is the right way type thing, when it seems like you can look at his way and say, hey, we have enough of a sample size now that it isn't the right way. So either you change or we've got to move on.
Yeah, the buyout for him, $34 million, I believe.
I know that obviously I'm on the side of championships. That's the most important thing. But he's not necessarily getting dragged through the mud because he hasn't won a national title since 2012. He's being dragged through the mud because they have not made it far.
Yeah, you take one of the best offenses in the tournament and you get upstaged by
Oakland.
Zach Golke or whatever.
Golke?
Zolke, Bolke.
You have to, as much as you know the ultimate goal is a title, you have to also be realistic. You don't win a championship, especially March Madness, where you have to go through a 68 team tournament on top of making sure you make it first, and then you go through this upset city for fucking 2 weekends. It's not easy to win a title in anything, especially college basketball. So it's not that. It's the fact that he got bounced by a 15 seed 2 years ago. Nothing last year.
Right.
And then
now
they got
14.
bounced by a 14 seed.
It's wild.
See, you can like get people to leave you alone if you made the Elite Eight, in 2021, make the Final Four in 2019. People are not focusing on you, but he hasn't done shit.
Yeah.
Since 2015. 2015 Kentucky team was supposed to be, they were the preseason number 1. They had lost 2 games leading into the tournament. They were not supposed to lose to anyone. And then they got rocked by the Frank Kaminsky Wisconsin team in the Final Four or Elite Eight. And then he has gone downhill. That was Devin Booker. That was Karl Anthony Towns. That was a loaded Kentucky team. It's been 9 years. They have not done shit. They haven't made it to the Sweet 16. They haven't made it to the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
Nothing. And you're getting bounced as a high seed. It does not look good for them.
Yeah, it's like, they're resting on the previous era, just like they're given too much benefit of the doubt. For me, I had them going, I think at least to the Sweet 16, not because I knew a ton about them, but because it's like, oh yeah, this is just what I remember them being. But now the new pattern for you is that you're untrustworthy. Yeah. You're not able to. You look down on your opponent. You have these guys who are high value recruits who look at an Oakland team and put their nose at them.
The NIL's definitely fucking with him. The transfer portal's fucking with him. New 4 or 5-star recruits are no longer having Kentucky on the top of their list. And make no mistake, even though they haven't done shit, this is a ruthless fan base. The Big Blue Nation of Kentucky, we're talking Rupp and Pat Riley all the way from way back when.
Yeah.
This is not a forgiving fan base at all. Because now you have John Calipari getting out-recruited no longer by Coach K or Roy Williams, by John Shire and Hubert Davis. The other legends, they're off the playground. He's still there, and he's losing to everyone else that are newcomers.
Yeah, and I imagine that
they're coming for his head.
Not only that, but I'm sure that these guys have a really good, people recruiting against Kentucky have a really good. I'm not exactly sure what they would say on the couch or the figurative couch or whatnot.
Show them the bracket in the last 3 years.
Probably, yeah.
That's really all you need to do.
Yeah, or talk about the guys who didn't work out or how Coach Cal has, screwed people. I don't know. But the script on how to recruit against them seems to be pretty easy now.
Put yourself in the position of a Cooper Flag. You're a 5-star recruit from a top high school basketball program. You have Duke and Kentucky, the 2 biggest ones. Where are you going if you're being recruited by both right now, current day?
I think that Duke, 1,000%.
You're probably going to Duke for several reasons. Number one, there's more recent sample size of players making it as an all-star in the NBA.
Sure.
Outside of the Devin Booker and Kat and all them. You have Paolo Banchero, Gary Trent Jr., Zion. You're all younger guys that have RJ Barrett. They've all made it. You have Duke players not making it to the league in Europe. And then whoever doesn't make it there, they're in the coaching staff. There's different roads for you to be a part of, and it's almost like Cal has nothing against that. How many Kentucky players do you see on the sideline? I mean, even Carolina's doing it.
Yeah, I don't I think it's a pretty easy choice, especially in current day. And I think also kind of what I was saying earlier, I think Calipari has this old school way of doing things where it's kind of my way or the highway, and either you get on or you're not involved. And so where I think with these other coaches who've taken over for legends at North Carolina and Duke or wherever, they realize, they have to hold some of that weight that these other guys had before they left, Roy Williams or Krzyzewski. But they also, the benefit of them being in that position is to bring this new wave and to understand these kids of this generation. And I think that's one big thing that Calipari is missing. He doesn't, he has been vocal about the fact that he doesn't want to embrace this like kind of NIL age. And I think that that's a huge turnoff. These kids, especially if you're going to play for a program, a blue blood program, they expect to be able to come in and make six figures. And if you're not going to be the type of person who supports that and tries to elevate them to do that, then you have no chance in the recruiting field.
The philosophy to me, and I think I said it a little bit earlier, I at least alluded to it, this feels like the Nick Saban strategy, but now within college basketball, because it's like, I'm going to bring you to my team. I'm going to get you as ready for the next phase as possible. You're going to grow to be a pro and all of this. Now, Kentucky hasn't had any of the recent success that maybe Alabama has had in the football world.
I was going to say, Saban went out on top.
Yeah.
Cal doesn't necessarily have
They're going
edge.
the wrong way.
Yeah, he's not going out on top. He's going out because he can't hack it anymore.
Yeah. But, I mean, Coach Cal was able to get away with it because that's just kind of like, it was kind of like a scoreboard situation. Like, look at it. But he's not able to adapt, or at least he's not shown that he can adapt to this point to where it's like, all right, what are you doing here? How are you aligning things to be a successul program? And who knows, maybe we'll eat our words in a year or two.
I don't think we will.
But yeah, it doesn't feel like it because we had this conversation for the last 2 or 3 years, it feels like.
I mean, he got fucking murdered by a guy who's going to own a dealership in Michigan in 4 years. I mean, that guy's not playing anywhere.
Yeah.
And he roasted Kentucky all night.
Yeah, he sure
set
did.
records.
He sure did. If we look at other sort of upsets, there were a few close games. I was kind of looking for a little bit more of, and we have been spoiled in recent years by the 116 upsets. Yes, we did get this 314 upset when it came to Oakland and Kentucky. I was almost craving that St. Peter's 15-2 again against Tennessee, but a lot of these were big old blowouts.
You know what I think it is? I think players are aware that I think everyone has known, if you're in the tournament, that anything's possible. That's the beauty of March Madness. But in the recent 2 or 3 years, a 16's beaten a 1. And it's more common that a 15's beaten a 2, 14's beaten a 3. This year, you're seeing higher seeds. They're not taking anything for granted, and they're coming prepared. You've seen a UMBC beat a number 1 Virginia team. You're like, I've told you before the game today, I'm terrified of James Madison. There was
and then Duke wins by 30.
Was a solid chance that Duke was going to lose it. I was prepared for it.
Yeah.
And they win by fucking 38.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I think teams are just coming prepared, and they're not overlooking the opponent at all.
I mean, yeah, you had in UConn's first game against Stetson where Coach Hurley was talking about how they need to shore things up and clean things up, and I think they allowed like 19 points. They allowed like 0 points to this team or anything.
You look at the difference in program. You look at like a Stetson, and then you look at a Blue Blood. Look at a UConn.
Yeah.
Right? The talent comparison there
disparity
is night and day.
Yeah.
So if the talented kids come prepared, there's no chance that they are going to match up with them. If you get these 5-star kids to be on the same page and buy into it and know that, hey, this team can beat you, you better play your fucking best, then you see a 40-point blowout.
A team that we did not see their best was at the hands of, with Kansas and the Jayhawks. And Bill Self has, been dealing with some of his own personal health stuff the last couple of years. They barely squeaked by Samford in the opening round. And then they lose to Gonzaga, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But a very poorly timed quote by good old Bill Self here.
Is it something you already feel like I got to start thinking about next season, or you got to absorb this for a little while?
Well, I think for the last month I've been thinking about next season, to be honest. Not in the moments during the game, but obviously we played. We had 8 guys on scholarship, and we play. I mean, that were healthy there late, and injuries are part of the game, so that's not an excuse. But we could have done a much better job as a staff, putting more guys out there that we could play, and so that's something that I've thought about for a long time. And the thing about it is in basketball, early on, you can play through some things, but the course of a season, there's a grind that goes with it, and bodies get run down, injuries occur. That's all part of it. And when you don't have as much firepower or as that maybe you've had in past years, it certainly showed this year.
And so I know what Bill Self was trying to say. But what is quoted in the video at the top for the last month I've been thinking about next season, to be honest, is how people are going to take that little bit out of context. Because, you listen to the whole quote and you're like, okay, I understand where you were going with this. But
no one ever clicks on the article, and they just like to form their opinions and go on attack mode.
Yeah. And so maybe, and you could tell he was immediately trying to work his way out of what he had just said.
Kansas has looked like trash all season.
Yeah.
They were.
And then, obviously they lost their number 1 scorer, and they got blown out by 21 points against Gonzaga, a team that you were not as high on. And
I still don't believe
it.
I don't believe in Kansas. I don't believe in Gonzaga.
I have a kind of when you look at when do you believe in a team in the tournament? Because you have called Duke soft. You have been very worried about Duke throughout this tournament. And I kind of wonder, at what point, is Sweet 16, I understand it is an accomplishment, but have you proven it? Are you, does reaching the field of 16 give you any sort of confidence in the team at this point?
You think? Are you asking if I've changed my stance?
Yeah, and in a way, has a team? This sounds really stupid, and I'm I don't know how to work my way through it. Has anyone proven it by getting to the Sweet 16? It's a dumb question, but in a way, it is kind of 2 games, and maybe you get the right, the right matchups or something like that. Has your opinion changed on Duke?
No.
Yeah.
I told you in the beginning before the tournament started, they're the type of roster, the type of team that if they make it as far as they make it, I wouldn't be surprised because they have the talent. If they got bounced in the first round or second round, I also wouldn't be surprised.
But they win in dominant fashion in both of their games. And Jared McCain scores 30 points. The guys are out by the 10-minute mark, at least the main guys.
I think, not to avoid the question, but I would probably lay off I would not think they're soft if they make it to the Final Four. Regardless of how far they make it from there, if they make it to the Final Four, then I would say I'm wrong. They're not soft. They Final Four is like the standard.
Have they exceeded your expectations?
Not yet. I think tonight was kind of a
good step in the right direction.
Yeah, and it's not a game you could measure how well your team is doing because everything went wrong for the other team and everything went right for your team.
Yeah, that's not going to be like that.
You're talking about a freshman, like the freshman from Duke set a record of 6 fucking threes in the first half. He scored 30 tonight. That's not something that I was expecting. So it's like a holy shit, what a surprise.
Yeah. So let me flip this to the Oregon side because Oregon came on late in the season. They win the Pac-12. They win as an 11 seed against a 6 seed. Then they come in. They are up 4 points against Creighton, a number 3 seed, with 20 seconds to go. It gets forced to overtime. They lose in double overtime. They ran out of gas. We've talked about that a little bit. But thinking about that, did Oregon exceed your expectations on this season when you knew that they were on the precipice of going to the Sweet 16, when really a few weeks ago, you weren't even thinking that they could possibly be in the position to be in a Sweet 16, right?
Yeah, and I think if you kind of take a step back and look at the season as a whole, I think you would say, yeah, that's a season you can be happy with. I wouldn't call it necessarily successful. Wouldn't say that it's unsuccessful. I would just look at it and say, yeah, I'm happy with the way, it turned out. I think if you kind of look at it through a microscope and you look at this game individually, it is disappointing because they had every opportunity to win this game.
Sure.
They're playing a team that in kind of all facets is on paper better than you, and they were playing really well.
And you had them against the ropes. Yeah.
Exactly, and it was really in their grasp to win this game and take it further. So in that sense, yeah, it's a little disappointing, but again, I think you ask me a year from now, what did you think about Oregon's seasons last year? I'd be like, I think they did a great job.
I mean, that's probably the opinion of most Oregon fans. I think you might have a unanimous take from non-fans to say that this was absolutely a successful season. This was a team that wasn't going to make it to the tournament.
Right.
They won the Pac-12. That is the only reason that they got a bid, and then they won in the tournament at least one game.
Right. It's just kind of like when you see the way that game ended in the field of 32, it just kind of makes you sick to your stomach because you know what it could have been.
The funny thing about Oregon's season is
feel less lit.
It's mirror image of their rivals in like 4 years ago when Washington, with the exact same record, wasn't going to make the tournament, won the Pac-12, made it to the tournament, won the same exact amount of games. But it's not a team you talked about all season. And somehow they made a statement during the conference tournament, made it to the tournament. So I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good season.
And I think you can, with all the teams in the tournament right now, that benchmark or, kind of that bar that you set for good, not good, satisfactory, unsatisfactory,
right.
It's going to be different for everybody. And that's kind of what makes this tournament great, is everybody has a different path, a different story, different way that they got to this position that they're in now. And for a team like Duke, who's perennial winners, blue bloods, that bar is going to be higher, just like Miguel said.
Right.
He's not satisfied with this. Final Four is the only way. Whereas with a team like an Oregon or like a fucking Oakland, like that college, that town, those supporters are elated that they got that win against Kentucky. They don't give a fuck that they got blown out in the second round. They're still partying.
That upset against Kentucky,
that's going to last them for years.
Well, that also earned that school about $500,000 and a significant jump in recruiting the following year.
Yep.
They're like schools like that. You're always teetering in like, do we still have a football program? Do we still have a basketball program?
Right.
That just extended their basketball program a minimum of another 5 years.
Yeah.
because of that. Like, it does so much for those schools. And then you are spoiled when you're a blue blood fan because nothing's ever good enough. It's like, oh, you get all these 5 stars, but we don't win a title? You don't even get to the Final Four?
Yeah.
Like, Elite Eight is a fucking disappointment.
It's either championship or failure.
Yeah. And it's the standards are so high. It's like, man, other teams are winning the championship when they get to the Elite Eight. And you're sad because you're in the Elite Eight. It's like, man, how fucking spoiled are you?
Yeah, no, for sure. When you think about other teams where they say, hey, this would have been a successful season, we, at the time of the recording, don't know the fate of this team, but to see this, what are they called? Yale? What are they? Yale ends up advancing to the field of 32. Then they, will face...
Tonight, right? That's going on later.
Yeah, that's going on later.
Yeah, and same thing with like Grand Canyon.
For sure.
I mean, there's a couple of double-digit seeds that are. I mean, even like a Colorado or a Utah State. I mean, they've obviously already played and gotten demolished in both circumstances. Well, I guess not so much Colorado.
That was a very close. That was a good game.
And like a James Madison, like those are the teams that are in the category of like this is awesome. This is an incredible season.
That's the thing that's crazy is like people's opinions change drastically. Overnight or within a couple hours. You forget that when we were A on Friday, everyone, including us, were so high on James Madison. Like, James Madison were underdogs in
Won
Vegas.
Money off of them. Yeah.
But they had the most bets for them. And then it was never a question they were going to beat Wisconsin. That game wasn't close.
Yeah.
And then tonight,
it was just...
I'm like, dude, James Madison,
team?
It's a 30-3 team. They have not had a win closer than 6 points. I'm like, Duke's in fucking trouble here. And then Duke comes out and slaps him around by 40. And then I go on and like read ESPN and read the comments. They're like, yeah, fuck, Duke's beat a trash 12 seed. I'm like, they weren't a trash 12 seed. I was scared of them.
Yeah.
We all were.
You
were looking at them as like, they're going to be America's team today to beat Duke. I'm like, no, they weren't trash.
And I totally agree with that. That type of recency bias, I think, is crazy. But I was saying more so like for their fan base. Like this, like having even that one win over a Wisconsin, like that is going to mean a lot to those people.
That's kind of where I was going with that is having that opinion that James Madison, because they got smacked by 40 points, they're trash. You're taking away what incredible season they had. They weren't trash. Dude, they made it all the way to a game before the Sweet 16. You weren't expecting them to be there. I mean, they beat Wisconsin, who played in the finals, didn't they play in the finals of the Big Ten and lost to Illinois?
They lost to Illinois.
I mean, they had a pretty flawless journey to the bracket.
Yeah, and Grand Canyon only down 3 as of right now. Am I seeing that right?
You are seeing that right. Yeah, to Alabama.
Are we off of Purdue letting people down?
That was I mean, and that was another good point where a lot of the number 1 seeds have really been taking care of business. UConn up big over Northwestern. They look poised to be winning here. Still pretty early in the Houston and Texas A&M game, but I mean, Purdue, covering 27.5, which was crazy how that covered on Friday. But then, just like, whoa, I have a thing going on. Apparently, anyways, the number 1 seeds being pretty dominant, especially in Purdue. You brought this up again, where the last team to lose to a 16 seed in Virginia comes back, wins the championship. Purdue loses last year to a 16 seed and now is scoring 106 points.
That's the
on
only
Utah
thing that's
State.
like making me believe that it's like they're going to follow that same journey. It was like Virginia lost a 16 seed for the only time it's ever happened. They win the national championship.
Yeah.
Purdue loses to a 16 seed, and now they're being pretty fucking dominant. Could this be the year that they follow the same direction as Virginia in 2017?
Especially with how many people were so not high on them going into this tournament.
Yeah, we'll see. I still don't have complete faith in them. But so we'll see. I think also coming off a game like they played today, they score over 100 points, win by like 50, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think, this next matchup is going to be a lot different.
What, they got Gonzaga?
They got Gonzaga next, yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot different, and I think you're going to have to kind of come back down to earth, rein everything in, make sure everybody's on point.
And so you were talking about America's team, and who do you think that is now? If you were to say, like, who is that, like, that either...
There's two.
There's two, yeah.
And lucky for me, because I always, I believe that ACC is the best basketball conference, and whenever the ACC gets not enough bids in the tournament, the ACC always proves the committee wrong. They always go undefeated, or an ACC team wins the national championship. Right now, currently, through the second round, ACC is undefeated. And I think the two America's teams are Clemson and NC State. So NC State came in rolling hot through the conference tournament, and now they face Marquette, and they have a really good chance of beating second seed Marquette. But based on a lot of people who might not necessarily have any dog in the fight, they want brackets to implode. And I think if you want a bracket to blow up, you want Arizona to lose. A lot of people have Arizona going really far, and Clemson has a chance of taking them out.
Yeah, and to knock off Baylor.
That's a Final Four team for me.
That was a Final Four team. And, to your point, the NC State side, I mean, they're just playing with house money at this point, because here's a bit of nuggets for you. They've played 7 games in the last 12 days. Their head coach, Kevin Keats, has earned a $100,000 ACC tournament title bonus, $400,000 raise beginning next season, a 2-year extension now through 2030, a $25,000 bonus for beating Texas Tech in the first round, and now a $50,000 bonus for beating Oakland in the second round. So this guy has cashed a lot of money.
NC State is same as Oregon. They were not going to make the tournament.
Yeah.
They won the ACC, beat every top seed along the way, and they're still hot as shit. Like, they're in the zone.
Playing with confidence, playing with nothing to lose. Those are always the kind of the dangerous teams.
The number one thing I hate about this March Madness, North Carolina has every ingredient to win the national championship.
I did want to ask you about that, because
they're scary as fuck. If you look at all 6 national championship teams that Carolina has had, this team has every single one of those players. Every single one. It's like they start off slow, and then they call a timeout, and then Hubert Davis tells them, just turn it on. Just let's get going. Mm-hmm. And then they get going, and then no one can catch up. They're the scariest team to me.
Yeah, I bet it feels awful to have to admit that, to recognize it, to say it.
It sucks.
And yeah, the number one teams being pretty dominant. Who is the highest seed that you are the most scared about here? So you have Purdue, Tennessee.
Scared that they'll lose?
Yeah. Sorry,
like that they'll get bounced.
Yeah, that you don't trust at all
Marquette.
in all of these. Marquette is your top.
I think NC State could easily beat Marquette.
I would still say Purdue.
You're still not buying the Purdue.
Yeah, I think Gonzaga can win that game.
Best game coming up next weekend. If you scroll up a little bit, keep going. Illinois, Iowa State is hands down the best fucking game next weekend. that is about as even as it gets. They're the same exact team. That is going to be the best game.
I am very much looking forward to seeing what yields, maybe not as the best game, but just to see if Tennessee can answer the call. If I doubt that there will be any sort of slow legs there for Creighton being in this double overtime. But yeah, on the Gonzaga side, whether or not if this is real for them or not real for Purdue. But when you score 106 points the way that Purdue has,
Gonzaga has the guys to guard Edey, though. They got a couple 6'11", 7'1" guys.
Yeah.
That he might just run through and get him in foul trouble, but it's still, you need bodies there to stop him, or contain him a little.
The final couple of things just from me that seeing the end of that Auburn game this past weekend in which they lost to Yale. I mean, like Auburn, with Bruce Pearl and all of that, looking like, some people had them going pretty far. And then what was another team or game that I was really surprised about?
I was surprised that San Diego State's still in. I thought UAB was going to be
right, and so we have a bet going for this evening, where right? Did you took Yale minus 5.5, and I have
plus
5.5, yeah, and I have San Diego State. So, Braxton, do you want to get in on any bets for this evening? What do you think? No,
I don't. I gambled enough.
Yeah,
I want a ticket.
How about it?
$10.
That's right.
$10 won 120.
And
123.
Now you have to drive all the way back up there
to
cash out and place more bets.
Just gonna go back to
That's
them.
how that goes. Do you think that it's intentional that they're just far enough away? They're not super close, but they're not super far either. So
just for us.
Yeah, I guess just for us, but
because we don't have to. We can go to Spirit Mountain. We can go to Chinook Winds.
True. But how many?
It is the closest casino, though.
Is it? Yeah, I guess.
I don't. At this point, I don't see any reason to really go to the coast. Right? They don't even offer table games there, right?
They do.
Do they?
Yes.
I don't know how nice the sports. I know
it's
that
just whether they are manning them.
Sure.
Or not.
Yeah.
I know A&A Sportsbook looks better than Chinook Winds, but I've never seen BetMGM in Spirit Mountain might be just as nice, if not nicer.
I haven't been there either.
But Chinook Winds is literally a room with 4 tables, so it's nothing exciting.
And maybe that's why I thought that A&A was going to be so.
I mean, that
not
sportsbook is
awesome.
pretty fucking nice for a Richfield, Washington casino.
Yeah,
that casino in general was very nice.
It's crazy.
Obviously, it's less
Brand
than 10 years old.
Yeah,
but very, very, very nice place. I would love to go there again when I have a little bit more money to throw around.
Have all the monies, any monies. As we record, Houston and Texas A&M tied towards the end of the first half here. But I'm sure that when people listen to this on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, that they're going to love to hear my score update during a pre-recorded podcast.
Yep.
So we won't necessarily talk about that.
Yeah, next weekend, Duke plays a winner of that. So there's a possibility that my 2 champions are playing each other next weekend in the Sweet 16. I'm losing a champion regardless.
Yeah.
In all of my brackets.
God, could you imagine? Again, I don't want to talk about this on a pre-recorded podcast, but if A&M actually beats Houston, and then now you've got A&M to worry about and not Houston. But I guess we will talk about it next time.
Well, to close out our March Madness talk, don't trust AI. I did a full bracket through AI, and they had Kentucky winning. So don't trust AI.
Because AI kept looking at all the Bleacher Report, look at all these Kentucky All-Stars in the NBA. They're definitely winning it all.
Gut. The robots don't know.
Yeah. Well, at least
They did have Yale.
Did they?
Yep, did have Yale.
Well,
but
we'll give them that.
Yeah.
We'll just give them that. Anything else that you want to bring up here? I know I've kind of steered the conversation, but I want to make sure that I've covered out what the first weekend has yielded.
I think that's it for March
good.
Madness.
Yep.
You think you're good? All right. Well, let's see. A couple of other things that I wanted to talk about. I thought that if we're talking a little bit about Oregon, good old Bol, a former Oregon Duck, if not for just a couple of months at least. He was not so excited about how the referees were treating him against Wembanyama. He said the quiet part out loud in regards to how referees treat Victor Wembanyama.
And Victor draws the foul.
Phoenix foul number 11. Bol is second.
Second foul on Bol.
I get it.
Y'all dick riding, bro. I get it. I'll play it for you one more time.
Bol is second.
Second foul on Bol.
Dick riding, bro. I get it.
Hot Mike.
That was a weak ass foul call too.
Yeah. And so, you have to protect Wembanyama, I guess.
I tell you what, though, that is two just bags of bones.
Slenderman.
going up against one another.
Yeah. Just like maybe drink a glass of milk or something.
This is the time of year where you're reminded how much better college basketball is, because you're watching closely all the NCAA games, and then you watch an NBA game and you're like, man, it really is just for entertainment.
Yeah.
Nothing is like, Rick Barry came out and was like, you keep saying it's for the fans. You keep saying it's for the enjoyment of the fans, that you want a high-powered offense versus a high-powered offense, so you don't call a fucking thing. Like, don't you think fans would adjust that, like, love basketball, that they would actually enjoy watching a game that's called properly? You call a travel, you call a carry, you don't call the ticky-tack fouls like that one. It's like, make it be about the game again.
Yeah.
I think the volatility and variability of college basketball is what makes it so enticing, is because, mistakes can be made. And that these refs, for the most part, are going to call pretty fair, equal games. You know what to expect. So I totally agree with you.
What does that say about, like, the kids that are getting into basketball, that are becoming fans, and they're just now starting to watch both games? And you have all of these NBA players that now have podcasts, and they're openly talking about the game. And you've had every single NBA player that have a podcast, from retired players to current players, Trae Young, Paul George, Draymond Green, Kevin Garnett, all of these guys that are saying it is so much easier to score a basket in the fucking NBA than it is in college or Europe. That's bad for the fuck. You're talking about the best players in the world, and it's the easiest place to score. Why is that?
Yeah,
that's a problem.
Well, and we know guys who run youth basketball leagues, and I've talked to them multiple times about how difficult it is to talk to these kids who are 6 to 16 years old, and who just want to spot up three and
logo three,
and don't want to run offenses or take on basketball strategy, because they think, oh, this is how the best guys do it. This is how I want to do it.
Yeah, they want to look the part, not play the part with all of the,
and it's like,
think about how
it just doesn't work.
How hard to make it already to be one of the top 400 basketball players in the entire world or in the country. And then you are minimizing that even more, because now you have kids who don't know what a pick and roll is. They don't know what the, post one side, 4 spread, 1-2-1 or 1-2-2 zone, 2-3 zone, all of this shit that you should be able to run, because everyone wants to be Dame Lillard. Everyone wants to be Steph Curry. And the kids who can't shoot,
What spot do you have for them?
Yeah.
Because some kids make it by diving for loose balls, by posting up, by rebound and putbacks. You're eliminating all of those kids because you're telling them right now the way you run basketball teams.
This ISO ball. And
if you can't shoot, there's no room for you in the team.
Yeah.
Not everyone can shoot.
Right.
Like you have to be able to find spots for these kids. It said like the biggest league in the world sets a bad precedent for the way they're running the league.
Good defense is sexy, man. Like, I mean, like, the ability
Unless you're
to...
Virginia. You have to be able to score.
Yeah.
Be good defensively, but you have to be able to score.
But, I mean, like, just the ability... Like, a good defensive match where, like, it feels like a good... Like a boxing match, kind of, right? Where, like, if you're able to defend well... Where, you know, and I think that should be celebrated. And the moment that anyone comes in on you, whether they touch the ball or they touch you or they don't touch anything, a foul is going to get called. And you just go like, what the hell am I supposed to do here?
Yeah.
Just olay and let them go to the rack and score.
Yeah. It's like guys like Pat Bev, for instance. Like he gets a lot of hate, which is totally, I think, understood.
From his mouth. Definitely
but
from his mouth.
But the fact of the matter is he plays a style of basketball that is underappreciated by the viewers, but anybody who's ever had him on their team in the NBA says, I love Pat Bev. And it's because of that, because he does something that not a lot of players are willing or even able to do.
Pat Bev is the guy you hate when he's on the other team and you love when he's on your team. He's also playing in the wrong era of basketball.
Yep.
He would be appreciated if he was in the 90s. He's not appreciated today because this is a spot up 3, drop 40 kind of league.
Yeah.
But he plays defense like Gary Payton back in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Those guys were appreciated back then. Vernon Maxwell and Dennis Rodman and all these guys.
But at the end of the day, he's fun to watch. Why is he fun to watch? Because he's good at fucking defense.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see if I could find this. It was a play recently where Patrick Beverley was on defense, and it was against the Miami Heat. And I'm not going to be able to pay this off well, but who's the big for the Heat?
Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, with Bam Adebayo. And so, he was guarding very aggressively. So then finally the point where Bam came up and basically like clotheslined Patrick Beverley to try and get him to knock it off essentially. But it was just kind of like, why not just like celebrate that type of competitive spirit there versus like then have to then go and try and injure Patrick Beverley for doing his job or something.
I just hate these, like, you see all these AAU tournaments that even like, Jamal Crawford has spoke about it and Lou Williams and all these guys. You watch these kids tournament and there's one like 6th grade or 7th grade kids. They were trading baskets from like half court. And it's like, man, this is the influence of like LaMelo Ball from when he was dropping 90 points and shooting from half court. That's not what you should be teaching them.
Yeah.
Either way.
Here's a good question for you. Take all of the all-stars. I mean, including whoever's in the league, whoever's in the NBA. Create your starting 5 superstars from the NBA that went to Kentucky. Create your 5 superstars in the NBA that went to Duke. Who wins?
Probably Kentucky, I would think.
You're talking about all time?
Yeah, all time. So who would you have on your team, first of all?
For Duke, you'd have Kyrie. You'd have JJ.
You're talking like who's the most successful in the league? Would JJ be on that starting 5?
The thing is that like I still think that I might just because it maybe like to balance my team or something like that.
So I'll probably have Kyrie,
yeah,
Tatum,
sure,
Zion,
Healthy Zion, not
Yeah,
fat Zion.
we're talking because if we're including Anthony Davis, you're
Yeah.
talking about peak uninjured
peak,
Anthony Davis.
yeah.
So Zion, Tatum, Kyrie, Brandon Ingram, and I don't know, like Marvin Bagley or some shit, Gary Trent, and in Kentucky, I mean, that'll be harder. You have De'Aaron Fox, you have Jamal Murray, you have Devin Booker,
Anthony Davis,
Julius Randle, John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins. I'm like,
yeah, they're deep.
Kentucky's definitely deeper.
Yeah, and newer. Yeah, that newer age player as well, because we're kind of not even thinking about legacy guys as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it would be a good matchup. I think just because of the depth of players, like if you're getting a full roster out of both teams, I think Kentucky runs it for sure.
Have you guys been, if we can kind of transition to the
baseball?
To the baseballs. Have you guys been tracking the Shohei Ohtani thing?
All I know is somebody was gambling.
All I know is the interpreter was involved.
Yeah.
Well, the interpreter's taking the fall.
Yeah, that's the big old thing. The MLB has a $700 million problem with Shohei Ohtani. Reports come out that sports gambling illegal in the state of California. As the story goes, Ohtani's name was implicated in a sports bookie's book and had his name in it. And as they were continuing to unravel this situation or the story, the person who is being implicated in it is his interpreter, who supposedly embezzled $4.5 million of, to go and gamble of using Shohei Ohtani's money. It doesn't exactly add up as we can kind of see, because again, this guy is taking such a fall within like a day or two of this story coming out or anything. They are chummy. They're talking to each other. They're laughing and everything. Like, it's not like this story just came out of nowhere. If this was like a legit, this has been going on for a while type of a thing. And so this guy is taking the fall, will take the fall. I don't buy it for a second, though. They show all these pictures of Shohei Ohtani at sporting events, and he looks like he is puckering at these things. So
there's one fact we know about Asians.
They love gambling.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that because the MLB has had such a hardened and strong stance against the likes of like a Pete Rose, and that even after decades of Pete Rose getting what's those things, petitions signed and
sure,
all these different things to try to get him back in the Hall of Fame, the MLB has hard and fast, no way. For them to have Shohei as this, like you said, $700 million superstar.
He's the face of the league right now.
They can't afford to, have him be mixed up in this kind of stuff. I think it just makes too much sense for everybody to just say, oh, it's this guy's, it's this guy who's doing it, the interpreter. Oh, we're not going to, there's no penalties or anything. He's fired.
You're not gonna put an asterisk next to the name of the face of your league right now. But if you're the MLB, you need to make a decision. Is gambling worse or steroids worse? Just pick one. You can't come down on both. I mean, what are you punishing people for? And it's $4.5 million. In big picture, you should be focusing on Bruno Mars, who owns a fucking Vegas casino, $50 million in gambling debt, right? That he has to work off by doing shows.
Yeah.
Who I can understand. I can gamble $4 million if I have it. I don't know who can gamble up to $50 million. At what point do you cut your losses and say, dude, I've lost 25?
Yeah,
maybe
let's be,
be
done chasing here.
Yeah.
Do you think? Obviously, the MLB can't afford to let this happen, but
But you're not letting it go because it's optics.
Yeah, because there's just no way that how would the interpreter have $4.5 million of his money? It's not like he's his financial advisor. He's his interpreter.
Well, that's why they included the embezzlement thing, that he got it through shady avenues. That's the only way that they could make it make sense. Is he embezzled the money from Shohei, got it under excuse me, under whatever shady circumstances, and then he went and gambled it. That's the only way they can make this make sense. But I think the biggest thing is Shohei is still good with this guy. There's no criminal charges being, set against this guy. I think that kind of tells you everything that you need to know.
Right. Yeah. How is that? And so Shohei's going to be speaking to the media on Monday, so we may know what he has said by the time you listen to this.
What are people's stance? What is it really when it comes to this issue? Do they just want to see the right thing being done? The person who committed the quote unquote crime to be punished, or is it because it's Shohei? He needs to go down in flames. Where's your opinion coming from? Do you want to see the right thing to be done? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about fucking gambling, which every other sport is out in the open. When you look up scores in Yahoo, ESPN, there's a spread. There's an over-under. I mean, this is out in the open. He didn't kill anyone. It's fucking gambling. Mm-hmm. Gives a shit.
I don't get the vibe that people want to see Shohei go down.
I don't think that people want to see Shohei go down. It's just that the MLB has such a hardline stance, especially with the Pete Rose, like you had talked about, Braxton, where you are blacklisted. You are done. You are not going to be in the Hall of Fame. You are cast out from the baseball survivor island forever. And they don't want that. I mean, obviously they don't want that because this guy's a global superstar.
When it happened to Pete Rose, at what stage was he in his career? I mean, he was on his way out, right?
Yeah.
Well,
he wasn't
and
at the
I
peak.
think the difference is Pete Rose was gambling on games he was playing in.
Yeah. And so obviously they're saying, were you betting on MLB games or whatnot? Apparently this interpreter has talked a couple of times, but yeah, it's gambling is here. It is something that you can't force, that if you fight against it, people are only going to find new ways to do it. And so if I don't see any issue in gambling on sports that aren't your sport, that you have no vested anything in.
Agreed.
What's,
But, and to kind of tie this all up, at least for me, I don't think people are looking to Ohtani to be taken down or looking for the right thing to be done. I think the focus is on the MLB.
Yeah, 100% agree.
100% on them. How are they going to handle this? Because it is going to be completely contradictory, most likely, to the stances that they've had in the past. And I think the people are just kind of sitting and waiting to see, with a star this big at his peak of his career, are they going to make rule changes? Are they just going to try to sweep it under the rug? Are they going to say, "Oh, we've made a mistake, with our rules, and we're going to go back and give Pete Rose his flowers now"?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Because it seems, just as we've spoke, incredibly obvious as to what has occurred. And for them to just kind of clean their hands of it and pretend like we've done our jobs, I think that's what people are not going to be okay with.
There's not one decision that just solves one thing. It's going to be a chain reaction of
yes.
You have to go back and change things from the past if you decide to go that route.
Yeah, and I think that you hit it right on the head, which is, do we give Pete Rose his flowers at this point? Because they went after him.
Oh, they buried
him.
Yeah.
And they made sure of it. And then he has spent all this time trying to build back, let bygones be bygones, and now they are confronted with this situation where they're just going to be like, come back. Come back to us, Pete. You can have everything you want.
I hope they do. He deserves it. Fuck them.
It is such a big nightmare of a PR issue for the MLB. I don't want to see Ohtani go down.
Yeah,
but their hypocrisy is showing if they just, brush this one.
They bury Ohtani. I wouldn't say the league is done, but that damages the MLB big time.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think they're
from a PR perspective. No one would be on their side.
I mean, it is not just $700 million, which is Ohtani's contract. This is like their entire sport. This is billions of dollars in marketing, eyeballs, TV contracts. I mean, they were just over in Korea doing a Korean classic where they literally like played real like regular season games and then are coming back to then play some more spring training games just to make it seem like these games were worth it. And it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So
this is also just more exciting than just baseball itself. So taking this all day.
Yeah. Maybe Shohei Ohtani spoke with Reese Davis and just realized, you know what, this is just a risk-free investment.
And he would be right.
Let's see. Good rebound, boys. I was in a little bit of a meat coma for a moment. So.
You did great, Pete. So proud of all of them.
Came back, and I am ready to go. It's raining outside right now. It's just awful. And I'm so excited to get to San Diego.
Sunny San Diego.
We hope you have fun, Pete. Enjoy it. You deserve it.
Day away.
Couple more weeks in just this studio before.
Something to look forward to.
Vacay time.
Yeah.
All right, clear eyes.
Oh, hard.
Can't lose.